Okay, welcome to episode 9, and here we are. So in our last episode you saw the tubes lit up, and that's it. You didn't hear any noise coming out, and I've been able to do some initial testing on this thing, and what I'm going to do now is do a very thorough walkthrough of every connection on this radio, and I'll tell you why. So this wire right here goes into a resistor, and I'll tell you what the value is in a moment. It goes into a, sorry about that, I should be better prepared. If I look at the schematic, it goes into a 20K resistor right here. So I have about 190 volts coming in here. Let's say 180 something. And on this side of the resistor, I'm only getting about 60K. I'm sorry, 60 volts. So I got a, there's initially a problem here because we know that this radio does require 180 volts on the plate of these tubes. Some of the tubes anyway. So before we go any further and damage anything, we're going to take a step backwards, and I'm going to go through the schematic, which is right here. You probably can't see it because of the sunlight. And we're going to trace every wire back from its point of entry from a voltage perspective. So we're going to start here with 45 volts, then 135, then 67.5, and 180. And we're going to trace everything back through these wires and make sure everything's connected where it needs to be. We're going to go very slow. I'm going to create a blow up of the schematic, and I'm going to mark where I've been, breadcrumbs, with a highlighter. And that's how we're going to make sure that everything's wired correctly. So we know our 5 volt works, filament works, dial light works. Well, that's cool. So I don't have to worry about the A plus supply. I have to focus on the C supply, and the B supply. Okay? So that's where we're going to focus. And then we're going to see if we have to make any adjustments. So as you can see, it's a little bit unusual radio. And the struggle I have is, you know, where do I connect these voltages to, right? I mean, I got this radio, it's just a bunch of wires taped together. It's quite possible I made a mistake, but that's okay. We're going to fix it. So I'm going to start tracing, and I'll come back and show you where we are. Well, everybody, the segment you just watched was filmed about a week and a half ago, and I've been really busy on this thing trying to get it to work, and I didn't video any of it because I wanted to really just get it down to a point where it's usable. But let me go over what I've discovered so far. So since the last video, I discovered that this audio output transformer that was here was open on one side. It's a center tap transformer because this is a push-pull amp. One side was open, so I've taken it out and replaced it with a transformer, a modern transformer. I've also learned that this other transformer here, this radio has two output transformers. This one had shorted wires here. If you recall, I had to do some surgery on this. Well, it wasn't good enough, so I had to actually take this transformer apart. And here are some pictures that you could see what I've done, what it looks like at the end product. So take a look at the pictures first. Okay, so this has all now been repaired. I had to dig into the tar, and I've got a nice level of epoxy, 2-part epoxy in there, and it's not going anywhere. And I've had to actually use some JB Weld to mount this transformer back into the top of the radio. That's why you see a tie wrap here, because it's still curing. So I found that was bad. So now this is good. It all ohms out good. And there's actually 4 different transformers in there. One is a 7,000 ohm. And I know I'm not using the right terminology to describe it, but I'm just going to use what's on the schematic. 7,000 ohms, 1.1K, another 7K, and a 1.5. So all these windings are inside this can right here. Then lastly, I found that the inner stage transformer coil was open as well. That's this one right here. If you remember when I was testing this radio, I had a problem with one of these. It was open. I had to do some surgery on it. So let me show you what that looks like, because basically it was a coil. Inside the coil was a spool that had another coil in it. The outer coil was fine. Alright, that's the secondary. The inner coil was the one that was open, so I had to do some surgery. So let me show you what that looks like right here. Okay, so on the schematic, this is the coil that was open right here. Okay, so that's now been repaired. And it works well. It ohms out a little bit low, but it's not that critical. So that's in good shape. So theoretically, everything that was bad on this radio has been has been fixed. The 2 output transformers and this interstage coil is good. So so now the plan is to rewire this transformer back into the radio. I'm also going to take a look at my connections that are coming in from the battery, from the power supply that we built, because I realized that I did make a mistake. So if you look at the schematic right here, this is my C+ supply. Okay, the C+ supply is supposed to go directly to the filaments. I didn't have it going there. I had it going to the what would have been the on-off switch. So I'm going to basically remove all these wires that come in from the power supply, and again follow the schematic. So that's where we are. I'm now going to start the wiring process. I got to be really careful with this thing because that JB weld is still curing. But like I said, I've got it tie wrapped here, so I'm not too worried about it coming off. I think I glued it about 5 hours ago, so it's pretty well. It's almost there. So now the plan is rewire this entire thing from scratch, and this time I'm going to work in sections. Brendan, who I have to give that guy a lot of credit, he is a saint. He's been keeping me on the straight and narrow here and saying, hey, take your time, it's alright, mistakes happen, people make mistakes. Making mistakes is not the problem. It's the ones that don't stay with it and walk away from it that are really the issue. And one thing you guys should know about me is I don't give up. So there's persistence here. That's not going anywhere. So once we get this thing wired correctly, I think we'll be in really good shape to actually hear something. It's a bummer that these transformers were bad, but you know, I learned that these, for some reason, I don't know why, on these battery sets, those transformers are often bad. I did a search on the internet, and everyone talks about battery sets always having bad interstage transformers and output transformers, and it must have something to do with the batteries. Don't really know. But also on a set this old, this is from 1930, they didn't use a lot of tar, and moisture gets in there, and who knows, right? So I think we'll be in good shape, and basically be able to move forward on this interstage coil that I told you about. I did find a hint of Filco disease, which is, you know, basically green on the coil wires. I was able to just strip back around 2 or 3 windings and rewire it, and I got that back and working. So for me, the next step here is let's get wiring. So we're going to get all these wires cleaned up. Everything's going to be where it needs to be. We're going to ohm everything out again and make sure that everything is still working good. And then we're going to connect everything up, and we're going to start from scratch. Okay? So that's where we've been. So what I'll do is I'll work to get this transformer wired back in the set, and then I'll come back and record one more segment, and then we'll pop it up and give you guys just an update on where we are. And then in the following video, you know, we're going to rewire all these electrical connections and all that good stuff. So let me go do that, and we'll be right back. You know what, after giving it some thought, it's been a while since I put a video up, so I'm going to put the video up now. And our next episode, sometime this weekend, will cover the wiring of these transformers back into the set. I don't want to let this go too long without you guys knowing where we are, so at least you'll get to see some of the surgery I had to do. Alright, so we'll see you guys in another video this weekend. Hope everybody's doing well. Take care.